Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Am I Overreacting, and it's by user Temporary7. Am I overreacting? My boyfriend said he wishes I was still fat after losing weight and I'm so effing pissed. I, 21 female, have been dating my boyfriend Adam, 28 male, for almost 3 years now. I feel like some context is needed to accurately describe our situation. When I was 15, my older brother passed away in a car accident and it threw me into a depression where I became very overweight. He was my best friend and meant the world to me. Losing him led me into the worst years of my life. A few months after I turned 18, I met Adam. He was one of my friend's older brother and we hit it off. He's smart, charismatic, and I loved his sense of humor. Adam is also heavy, but he was so comfortable in his skin it literally made me admire his confidence. I couldn't stand to even look at myself in a mirror, so this last year I buckled down and lost weight, a very significant amount, and now I'm even below my high school weight. I've never been this fit in my life and I feel so good about myself. My 21st birthday was this last Saturday and Adam and my friends had planned a party for me. Unfortunately, Adam had a family emergency, so he wasn't going to be around for my birthday. I was completely okay with this and reassured him that it was fine when I drove him to the airport. My friend Andrea recommended that we should instead go to a strip club and I thought that was an amazing idea. I'd like to reiterate that it would have been a women's only strip club. The next time I talked to Adam, I told him about the change in plans and he was very adamant that he didn't want me to go. He said it wasn't that he didn't trust me, it's that he didn't trust my friends. I ended up dropping the subject to not cause him further stress and we ended up just having the party they originally planned. Adam arrived today and I felt something was off. Something has been off since I lost weight. I kept badgering him until he finally opened up. We talked and he eventually told me that we don't even look like we belong together anymore. He brought up an instance where we were at the grocery store a week ago and a guy was asking me questions about watermelons in the fruit section. It was a casual conversation, but he referred to my boyfriend as my brother and I quickly corrected him. The guy apologized, said we look similar and walked off. At the time, my boyfriend laughed it off and didn't bring it up again. He then said something that pissed me off so bad. He said, "Sometimes I wish you were still big so no one else would want you." I lost all sympathy and quickly corrected him. I told him, even when I was a big girl, guys hit on me all the time and just like I always do, I told him I have a boyfriend that I love. He looked dumbfounded when I said this. I told him how effed it was that he wishes that I was still back at the size where I was depressed and hated myself. He told me he misspoke and I'm blowing things out of proportion. We argued more and he ended up leaving to his brothers to give me space. I've been sitting here just pissing myself off about what he said. Did he really think I was that unattractive when I was bigger? If so, why did he date me? Did he think I was desperate to be with someone because I was so fat? I just need some third-party advice. Am I overreacting? Well, in my opinion, no, you're not overreacting. All the different things that he said to you come from a very controlling and insecure place, in my opinion. The "I trust you, I just don't trust your friends." Well, that's controlling, and it got you to do what he wanted you to do. And then that phrase about him wishing you hadn't lost the weight because then nobody would want you? That's just totally messed up, and you are absolutely right. He could have been happy that you're not depressed and unhappy anymore. He could have supported you, but no, he made it about himself. And when you pointed it out, he tried to backtrack and then gaslit you, saying that you were blowing things out of proportion. In my opinion, the questions that you asked at the end of your post are the questions you need to ask him. And depending on how he reacts and answer them, then you need to make a decision regarding your future. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's check out the community comments. J. Christian Ramirez says, not overreacting, and he was a 25-year-old seeking out an 18-year-old to date. Trust that when you're 25, you'll see how big a gap that is. He was probably dating someone that much younger than him because girls his age didn't want him and he thought you'd be easier to control. Even if this wasn't an active thought, the second you took control of your body by losing weight, he was unhappy. A good partner hypes you up when you achieve something you wanted. They don't try to cut you down. This dude is not worth the time of day. And Opie responds, well, all I know is that his previous relationship lasted 5 years and it was a girl he dated in college. I never really considered that he had the intention to control me and I really hope that isn't the case. This is the first comment he's really made that cut me down, but now that I think about it, you are right, he hasn't really hyped me up either. My name is says, you are 21 and feeling good about yourself. Maybe it's time to lose about 300 pounds more of dead weight and leave the guy that snatched up an 18-year-old when he was 25 because he thought no one else wanted her. Pocket Fluff says, oh, he misspoke, right? But you're sure not blowing things out of proportion. Some things can't be unsaid, and boy, is that an effed up one to be told by your significant other. At least now you know how he really feels about you. But the question now is, what do you do with that information? And Michelin Sock says he's insecure. He isn't comfortable with himself. You're not overreacting. If he knows you were so unhappy, he would never wish you were unhappy to make him feel more comfortable. How does he treat you in general? Maybe he knows he doesn't treat you well enough, so he is worried you'll find someone who will. The idea that he thinks if you were bigger, you'd somehow be less attractive to other people is wild. No. All those judgments he just made in that moment are disgusting. He needs therapy. Maybe you should move on. Well, the community overwhelmingly agrees that Opie is not overreacting and that the boyfriend is being an insecure jerk. Now, Opie has given us 2 updates to this post, so let's move on with the first one. I want to start by saying thank you to everyone for giving me their opinions and advice. It really means a lot to me. I debated if I should post again, but I need an outlet to vent. I've been laying here in the dark and I've read basically all the comments and I think an update is warranted. Basically, Adam and I are taking a break and I've been crying my eyes out for the last few hours. He came home today and we both agreed that we need to talk and get everything out in the open. He started off by apologizing for what he said, particularly the "sometimes I wish you were still big so no one else would want you" part. I asked if he thought I was unattractive when I was bigger and he said no, but he doesn't understand why I'm dieting and exercising the way I am. Adam says I shouldn't have to cook 2 different meals and should just eat what he does, and me going to the gym 6 times a week is obsessive. I did ask Adam to come with me on walks or even bring up the gym, but it was never a "I'll think about it" response, just always a no. I told him that it makes me happy bettering myself, and he said that it has completely changed me. Adam went on to talk about how all I really care about is my looks now. He said he liked my hair how it used to be before I went to a stylist. He liked how I used to paint my own nails instead of getting them done, and how I used to never wear makeup instead of how I have to have some on now before I go out. Adam then said he knows I lost weight because I was unhappy with myself, but he was always happy with me and he doesn't understand why I have to keep trying to make myself hotter when I was already hot. Now replaying everything in my mind, his reactions have always been indifferent whenever I would show off my hair or nails to him. We talked back and forth, but it felt like I was just doing everything wrong. Adam said that I don't ever want to do things he enjoys anymore, like play video games with him or binge watch movies, and he feels like I'm a different person. I feel bad because I see from his point I have changed, and I may not be the girl he fell in love with. However, I still would play video games and watch movies with him, but it wasn't as often as it used to be. For a time, that's all we did every day. I see that Adam really hasn't compromised with me on things I want to do, but I can't help but feel bad because I was the one that changed our dynamic. I just don't want to go back to wasting hours and days in front of a screen. I told him I love him and he said he loves me too, but we need to separate for a bit and figure out if we're best for each other. I didn't argue, I just said okay and let him pack his things and leave. He's letting me stay in the apartment until I can move my stuff out. I've been crying my eyes out and everything feels like a blur. I don't know where to go from here and I feel like I ruined my first real relationship. I hope that now that we're taking some time apart, he'll maybe compromise with me a little more. I'm not ready for our relationship to end. From what he said, he wants us to take some time apart and connect again later. He also doesn't want us to see other people for now. I know most people are suggesting we split up, but I get this sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach when I consider it. I know rationally this is a situation I should leave, but I want to at least try before we each go our own way. Thinking of only having a friendship with him and him moving on fills me with dread. As of right now, we're not broken up, just apart. I just don't know if I'm ready to move on. Wow, OP, I'm sorry, but Adam sucks. He made everything about himself. I know you were unhappy with how you used to be, but I was happy with you, so why change? That's basically what he said. Anyways, like I said, we have a final update, so let's move on with that to see how this story ends. I want to start by saying thank you to everyone who reached out. Your support has meant so much to me. To get to the point, I broke up with Adam a few days ago and I'm still trying to process everything that happened. Things have been hectic and I'm settling into my new situation. Last week, I had decided it was time for me to move out of the apartment. Adam made it clear that our relationship wasn't going to improve unless we took time apart, and as bad as I felt, I knew he wasn't going to come back until I was gone. I knew I wasn't going to be able to move all my stuff by myself, so I decided to ask a coworker if they could help me. The only heavy things I had were basically my bed frame and a dresser. The rest were just boxes and suitcases full of clothes. Last Monday, I asked my coworker David if he could help me move my stuff into my parents' garage. I knew he used to work for a moving company and he has a truck, so I was hoping he could do it for $100, lol. I showed him pictures of my stuff and he said he would just have to take apart my bed frame, but yeah, he could do it on Thursday, which was his next day off. I didn't have that day off, but I had personal time off to cover it, so it was fine. Thursday comes and David shows up to the apartment. I show him where everything is and he goes out to his truck to get his tools. It wasn't more than like a minute or two when I hear Adam's voice yelling, "Did you F my girlfriend?" I immediately go into the living room and see David with his hands up, looking very confused, and Adam asking him, "Did you F her?" I swear this was the most humiliating thing that has ever happened to me. I could feel my face get red. I go over and grab Adam's hand and pull him into the bedroom. He's freaking out, asking if David is the guy I've been seeing. I told him he's crazy and that David is my coworker and he's only here to help me move my stuff. He said he didn't believe me and he wants to see my phone. I told him I didn't have anything to hide, but if he goes through my phone, that's a deal breaker for me. He waited a second before taking my phone and going through it. I stood there watching him open up all my socials, all my texts, and even scroll through all my pictures. It was almost like a light switch went off in my head and whatever love I had for him was gone. I felt disgusted. I told him I was breaking up with him and he looked shocked. He started apologizing and said he was coming over to tell me not to move out and that he wants me to stay with him, but he just freaked out when he saw me here with a guy. That's when I realized that Adam knows I work on Thursdays, so why was he even over here? I asked him this, but he just kept apologizing and begging me not to leave him. Something in me finally snapped and I screamed at him to get out. I've been mad before, but I've never screamed at anyone like that. He just stared at me, turned around and left. I immediately picked up my phone and blocked him. I found David in his truck and apologized to him and asked him if he could still help me, and he said of course. After we had everything put up in my parents' garage, I went to pay him and he said instead I could buy him lunch. I took him up on the offer because it would be cheaper than $100 and I suggested Applebee's, lol. It was nice getting to vent to someone who saw how crazy Adam was firsthand. After we were done, he went and paid and said I can get him next time. The breakup didn't really hit me until the next day, and even though I cried my eyes out, it felt good, like I got this huge weight off my chest. To be honest, it's almost scary how okay I'm feeling about it all. Maybe it hasn't fully sunk in yet and I'll miss him when it does, but for now, I feel fine. Thank you to everyone who's given their advice and helped me. Well, Opie, I think ending this relationship was the healthiest thing you could do, particularly because of what you pointed out. How did he know you were going to be there, considering that he knows that you work on Thursdays? Like, does he have a camera or a tracker or something? Just be careful, Opie. But again, good for you. And on that note, here's wishing you the best in the future. Take care and thanks for sharing. And now, let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance and it's by user Hyelun, the parking feud that finally got a solid solution. I work at a niche retail store located in the heart of town. Our customers are dedicated and often travel from afar just to visit us, so having a clear and accessible parking lot is crucial for our business. Unfortunately, our next door neighbors, a family-run landscaping and garden supply store, have been a thorn in our side for years when it comes to parking. The tension between my boss and the landscaping store owner goes back over a decade before I joined, all over something trivial. I know the landscaper once complained about a tree on our side of the lot, which was unsightly for the customers. It was the pettiest neighbor drama you could imagine, but it festered for years. The final straw came after the Rona, when the physical business in town started picking up and our parking lot started overflowing with cars again, many belonging to the landscaping store's customers. See, our two parking lots are connected. Ours is about twice the size of his, but the landscaper had decided to reserve almost all his spots for his landscaping vans. Ironically, those vans are rarely even there during business hours. As a result, his customers just parked in our lot, leaving us with few spaces for our own customers. My boss, trying to be reasonable, approached the landscaper with a suggestion. Maybe they could adjust their parking setup to free up a few more spaces for customers and that their vans were welcome to park in our lot if their lot was ever full. The landscaper shut down the idea immediately, insisting that it was absolutely crucial to reserve all of those spaces for his van, even though they were rarely there during the day. The conversation turned heated, ending with my boss threatening to put up a fence and separate the lots and enforce parking. The landscaper practically daring him shot back, "Go ahead," probably knowing how expensive that would be. As you can imagine, it ended with both men storming off and not speaking for 2 years. Typical neighbor stuff. Fast forward to recently, and we got a golden opportunity when a parking management company approached us with a proposal. They offered to install automated license plate cameras to enforce parking, allowing us to find vehicles that stayed beyond our generous 3-hour free window if they hadn't paid. The setup would be free, we'd get most of the revenue, and they would keep any fines issued. It was perfect, especially since we were losing spaces to freeloaders, wouldn't really impact the customers of the nearby stores, and if anyone had a good reason to park there for longer, then we could give them an extension at our discretion. However, for the cameras to work, they needed to cover both our entrance and the landscaping store's entrance. Being the considerate neighbor again, my boss had the parking company rep reach out to the landscaper to explain the deal and benefits. But true to form, the landscaper didn't even let the rep finish before kicking him out, making it very clear that under no circumstances would his lot become a paid parking zone. Instead of going through the hassle of putting up the necessary expensive fence, my boss had a better idea: big rocks. One of his construction buddies had a stash of leftover rocks from a recent project and offered to place them for a great price. The parking company even agreed to front the cost, to be repaid through future parking revenue. On Monday morning before opening hours, one of the buddy's employees, a big burly guy with arms like tree trunks, arrived with a truck and crane to place the rocks. The rocks were neatly placed to allow pedestrians to pass with carts, but completely blocked vehicle access. The landscaper stormed out, yelling and trying to intimidate the worker into stopping, but the worker, unfazed, calmly told him to step back for his own safety, which made the much smaller landscaper back down and retreat in frustration. The rocks weren't just a physical barrier, they quickly became a mental obstacle for the landscaper's employees. Their muscle memory kept bringing them into our lot only for them to realize too late that they couldn't drive through anymore. We watched from our newly installed surveillance cameras just in case the neighbor tried anything, trying not to burst out laughing as their vans ended up awkwardly stuck. They'd have to reverse out and go all the way around to their own entrance, only to perform a series of painful maneuvers to squeeze into their now much smaller parking area. At one point, we even caught one of their rushing vans clipping a rock while trying to maneuver, a little bonus for our viewing pleasure. The next day, the parking company arrived to install the license plate cameras and set up the signage, which took a few hours. Throughout the installation, the landscaper's family members were prowling around our lot, snapping photos and videos as if they were on a mission to find a violation. but the parking company was very professional and had done everything by the book, so there was nothing for them to report. In the meantime, my boss was positively glowing with satisfaction as he helped direct the installation. Here's the best part. We noticed that the neighbor's family had started parking their personal vehicles in our lot, like out of spite to mess with us. One day, my coworker saw one of the family members dash out of their store and sprint to their car. We thought it was odd at the time, but didn't think much of it until the following week when the landscaper's son came into our store looking a bit embarrassed. Apparently, he had accidentally overstayed the 3-hour limit and received a $150 fine. The son practically begged us to waive it, insisting it was just a simple mistake. My boss politely replied, "Oh, I'd really love to help, but it's out of our control now. The parking company handles all the fines." The look on his face was priceless. He left, shoulders slumped, retreating back to their store. Ever since, our lot has been blissfully clear and our customers have had no trouble finding spaces. Meanwhile, the landscapers have been grumbling as they have a harder time maneuvering their vans, still trying to pretend they're not bothered. As for my boss, he's been smiling a lot more lately. Sometimes the best revenge is simply letting people get exactly what they ask for. Well, OP, it's like the saying says, F around and pay $150 fines. Sucks for the landscaper, but that's the reality right now. Thanks for sharing, OP. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.